Okay, hello everyone and welcome to my second lecture of the History of Fashion and Costume Design series. Today's topic is hair, wigs, hairstyles, and the construction of identity in ancient Egypt. So this presentation is an evaluation and overview of Gay Robbins' paper titled Hair and the Construction of Identity in Ancient Egypt, 1480 to 1350 BC. The essay written by Gay Robbins is a thorough investigation of how the way hair was worn encodes information about gender, age, and social status. Robbins taught ancient Egyptian art at Cambridge University and has published a variety of scholarly texts. I highly recommend this essay. It was a really wonderful read. All right. So a quick overview on the social hierarchy of ancient Egypt. At the top, we have the king or the pharaoh. Below that is the elite, and on the bottom is the non-elite. And hairstyles were affected by status, gender, and age. So the elite consists of literate people and male officials. The non-elite is semi-literate or non-literate service workers, farmers, tenant farmers, and harvesters. And there's a division of gender. I'm going to move my little guy if I'm able to. Perfect. Amazing. There's a division of gender. So women played a significantly smaller role in outdoor labor in comparison to men. Women were primarily running the household, bearing and raising children, and this is likely why women depicted in ancient Egyptian paintings have fairer skin than men, signifying that they were primarily doing inside labor. So on the right-hand side here with these images, circled in blue, I have the women that are these fair kind of yellow cream skin. Men typically are depicted with a red, brown colored skin in paintings, and this could be because men were working outside, which is prone to tanning their skin. So highlighted in the red circles, I have the men in these paintings. And the ancient Egyptians believed in these life stages in society. So there was birth to puberty, to adulthood, to marriage, to parenthood, to death, and then to the afterlife is what they were living for. So to start off, we have elite men, and elite men kept their hair short or clean shaven, and complex male hairstyles were achieved through wigs. So the most prestigious elite hairstyle was a shoulder-length wig, which I have circled in red right above, and the hair was arranged in strands, curls, or braids, and this was typically worn by high officials who owned tomb chapels. Adult sons, markers of a younger generation, wore a short round wig or a shaved head, which I have right above me is this circle of a shaved head. The shoulder-length wig is a senior status of the deceased, and a round wig shaved head is the junior status of deceased. And shaving the head solves the problem of keeping the hair clean and free from head lice and their eggs, nits, for lice do not infest wigs. And that is on page 61 of Gay Robbins' essay. A shaven head is associated with cleanliness and ritual purity, as well as signifying plenty of leisure time to keep it well kept. So only the elite would have leisure time, which is why the elites would have the shaved head and then the complex wig right on top. And high-ranking priests commonly also had a shaved head. So here I have this statue of Prince Rahotep from 2600 BCE from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. And this is just an example. He has short styled hair, likely either shaved or a wig. It's kind of hard to tell, and a thin mustache. And he also has the kohl eyeliner. So here we have servants and musicians. So servants and musicians would also have a shaved head, which actually kind of relates to their work being primarily indoors. Excuse me. They would not need a wig to protect themselves from the sun. So in some tombs, male guests at banquets would be shown without wigs and with shaved heads. That was on page 62. And the non-elite men working outdoors in fields or marshes would wear their natural hair, typically short yet unkempt in the back. So right below me, I'll move my little camera. Let's see. Okay, so right below me right here, highlighted in the blue circle, this is a depiction of an Egyptian man with his natural hair that was titled as unkempt. And right next to him, it's like this frazzled kind of gray reddish hair that also depicts him as like a lower status. Directly above, if I'll move my camera, there's a man playing a flute. And this, he also has like a shaven head, but you can kind of see some lines on the side. I can't really tell if it's highlights or a little bit of like hair growing through. And then right above me is this depiction of an old male farmer. And below, I'm just jumping around everywhere, there are various servants, some without a wig, others without. So they have like the bald head, the shaved head, the natural hair, or the gray hair. And on page 62 to 63, unlike the wigs of the elite, which are almost always black, this natural hair may be rendered as reddish brown or as graying, sometimes appear with straggly beards and facial hair. So we can see that in almost all of these. They have the reddish brown hair, shaved heads, very different from the elite. Then we have the priests, and the priests are very interesting. There's two particular types of priests, the Ainamutef, I apologize if I said that wrong, priest, and the high priest of Ptah at Memphis, both associated with a unique hairstyle, a round wig, kind of like a bowl cut, with a braided side lock of a youth. And we'll get into like the youth hair later. But as you can see right on this image here, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving over top of it, the one right above, there's this headlock that comes off of like the round bowl cut. And this is the high priest of Ptah, or crown prince of the third intermediate period from 750 to 664 BC. And directly on the right, bottom right, there's a priest with leopard skin draped over top of him, and leopard skin was a signifier of it being a priest. And here I found this really wonderful source. It's titled The Social and Ritual Contextualization of Ancient Egyptian Hair and Hairstyles from the Proto-Dynastic to the End of the Old Kingdom by Jeffrey John Tassie. And I found this image here that I thought was really wonderful to bring in like these modern resemblances of these ancient Egyptian masculine hairstyles. And ancient Egyptian hairstyling and wigs bear the resemblance to African type hair and aesthetics found in other Black African cultures. We can even see many of these similar alterations and styles in modern day Black Africans that inhabit Northeast Africa, such as the Afar. So over here I have this map, just as a little refresher. The pink is where Egypt is, and the green circled is Ethiopia, and right at the top is Afar. So I have this other image that really shows where Afar is. And I think it's really wonderful to remind ourselves that Egypt is in Africa, because one of my college classes, a college student did not realize that Egypt was in Africa, which I think is absolutely insane. All right, moving forward, now we have women. And I'm going to move my little guy down here. Perfect. Elite women wore their hair long and falling over past the shoulders, often to the breast level, occasionally supplemented by additional tresses or a wig placed over their long hair. Non-elite women would keep their hair unkempt and usually natural hair, similar to the non-elite men. Women were very rarely depicted with shaved heads, and women usually wore wigs over top of their natural hair, in which women were not protected against head lice since they still had their natural hair underneath. So here I have a little bit of examples. Up at the top here is a woman in her wig, and then we have some other examples here. A woman at a banquet, original New Kingdom, 1479 to 1425 BC. Moving forward, there is two types of styles here. So we have the tripartite style, which is hair divided into 3 bundles, 2 falling on either side of the face, 1 falling down the back, leaving the shoulders exposed. So I'll just do it to myself real fast. So it's like 2 strands in the front, typically like the ear is showing, and then 1 right down the back, and I have this right here on the right-hand side. And the enveloping style is the hair is arranged in a single mass covering the shoulders and the ears normally. And there's detailed renderings to show the hair arranged in masses of braids or ringlets, and both of these quotes were found on page 64. And it was also discovered by Gay Robbins that daughters of the elite, there were alternative tripartite style with thick tresses or ringlets framing the face and a thin bunch of hair in the back like a ponytail leaves the rear part exposed on page 64. And the tripartite style was also common with deities. So Isis would be shown in that same style. Oops. Oh my. Okay, we're going back. Okay, and we're going forward. Perfect. Okay, and this is actually a statue that goes along with the statue I showed earlier, the consort of Rahotep. This is a statue of Nofret, and it's circa 2600 BCE at the Egyptian Museum of Cairo. And this is depicting an elite woman, yet she is shown with a short round wig. And it's kind of similar to the enveloping style. And something I find really interesting, the way that they painted her hair here, if you can see my mouse, it's actually her natural hair, and the wig that's on top is placed over top of her hair. So there's like the two differences in texture that you can visually see. It's like her wig is placed over top of her natural hair. So here is women's servants and musicians, shown in a variety of non-standard, in quotes, hairstyles. So typical to have short, round wigs ending right above the shoulder, which was also worn by elite women, which I just showed in the previous slide, in the Old and Middle Kingdoms, and again seen in the late period. So here circled in blue, I have evidence of these banquet scenes that show female servants and musicians that are serving like the elite women. So there's also these female musicians from the Middle Kingdom down below at the Met Museum, and they have like the short shoulder length round wig and hair. Perfect. Oop. Okay. And this is actually kind of like showing a really close-up depiction and representation of wigs being worn over top of natural hair. So this evidence is seen in paintings. So I have it highlighted. Her real hair and the wig is layered over top. The real hair ends here, and then there's that additional length of the wig. So it's like almost like extensions in a way. And here we have children. So children were depicted on a much smaller scale, as you can see here. I'm circling with my mouse just right below. And they were primarily nude, portrayed as sucking on their finger or their thumb most times. Their heads are shaven, except for one lock of hair that falls from the right-hand side, also called the lock of Horus, which is usually seen in elite children. The side lock is worn by both girls and boys and can be seen in several styles, including a single braid, several braids, or cluster of curls. There is a marker of gender difference, again, similar to the men and women, as girls have the lighter skin and boys have the darker skin. In some images, boys can wear earrings and circlets, which among adults were only worn by women. So the construction of gender for boys is ambivalent. Male gender becomes constructed in adulthood. And children of the non-elite are typically represented with a shaved head only, no side lock, to be clearly distinguished from the elite. So we have these I have the statue here from 1480 to 1390, which is in the New Kingdom. I have this youth from the hunt scene from the tomb of Nebenum. I super apologize if I pronounced that wrong. I looked at the pronunciations prior to this video, but now that the camera is rolling, it's out of my head. This is from 1360 BCE, and then ancient Thebes, the tomb of Kai and Herka, mural of women with children. As you can see here, and they're depicted very, very small in comparison to the women. And this I find so incredibly fascinating. There is evidence of wigs. So on the far right, this is a wig from Thebes. It is held at the British Museum, and it's made from human hair impregnated with beeswax and resin. And this type of wig comprised of both curls and strands and braids could be worn by a man of high status. So I really love like the different hair textures that are layered on top of one another. And second in from the right, we have a wig from the Third Intermediate Period, 1040 to 992 BC. And this wig was found on the head of a mummy in her coffin, made of braids of human hair fastened at the top with a cord. And likewise to the wig adjacent to it, it was treated with beeswax and a layer of animal fat that covers the whole wig, which could have kept it very well intact. And this is held at the Met Museum. The third one in from the right is a large wig. And this is actually a reconstruction incorporating a modern wig, but this is similar to the wig that they found in the tomb that they got it from, and it came with these like large wig rings. So they reconstructed that, and then here is the wig of Hontempet, found on the head of a mummy on the far left. All right, and this is another thing that I really find so interesting. These are called Fayum portraits, also known as mummy portraits. And these are portraits from the 1st century. Most of these that I included in here are between 110 to 70 AD. They are naturalistic portraits of mummies from period of Roman rule in Egypt, and there's stylistic traits from both regions that you can visually see. This is also depicting a mixed race of people. So you have the Roman Italians and the Egyptian Africans. You visually see the attire, personal adornment, and hairstyling for each of them. So I really love this lady right below me that you can see like her braids at the top of her head and the curls. And here is my work cited for this presentation. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do apologize about my mispronunciation of some of these words. Also, I am taking this with a lot of grace, and I would love to get any feedback or recommendations, or if I got any of the information incorrect, please let me know. I do not have authority over Egyptian art at all, and I would never want to place myself in that way. So thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to you, and I will see you next week. Thank you.